Welcome back to One Comic Book a Day, where I am a week away from my vacation, but there will be videos going up at that time. It's just videos you've already seen in more of a collection. But today is Bat Friday. We are continuing our way through Batman #2 with the second story, Wolf, the Criminal Master. I keep wanting to say Criminal Mastermind, which probably would have worked better. But no, the Criminal Master. A weaker Batman story, especially after the fact the first story was a story where the Joker and Catwoman met each other. In fact, if the rest of the stories are this quality, they probably should have put that story that started this comic to the end, because now everything else just feels very disappointing. This story is kind of like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type story on the way of how Looney Tunes or even Hanna-Barbera cartoons would portray it. You'll see in a second, but it's not like a very strong suited. It's also, even though some dark stuff happens in it, feeling way more lighter than the other Batman stories, to the point that I felt like a lot of Batman's dialogue would have worked on the 66 Batman series, especially if they would have thrown Chum somewhere randomly in any of the conversations. So we meet the caretaker of the museum, Adam Lamb, who is a meek, small man. When I say small, he's short, not like small in the way that feels or is portrayed. And the fact his name is Adam Lamb is on purpose. He likes to read the book The Criminal Master and kind of has fantasies of being a criminal mastermind, but not really. And the guy who runs the museum is very surprised by this because he doesn't see that Adam could possibly have this in him. But when Adam's alone about to leave the museum, he is looking at sort of like a bat symbol for some sort of exhibit at the museum, and he falls over going down the stairs and bonks his head. He is fine, though he probably has a concussion. But as he's coming to with consciousness, he's staring right at the book as the clock is chiming. So every night, and this starts with the first night, when the clock strikes 12, he transforms, sort of. They sort of describe it as like he actually looks very different, but other than being slightly crazed looking, it doesn't look like he actually morphs into a violent criminal master. And by criminal master, his first crime is just to walk over to a guy and beat him to death with a cane. I don't think he's a criminal master. That seems like something anybody can do. He starts calling himself Wolf and puts together a small group of criminals that are committing crimes in Gotham, though it hasn't really been named Gotham yet. No one has said Gotham yet. I know that is true. And yes, his name is Wolf, Lamb, Wolf, a wolf in sheep's clothing. Somewhat clever. Still feels like a Looney Tunes story. So one night, as they're committing a crime, Batman and Robin come across them. They go after them. Robin gets knocked out by Wolf. This is the count it, fourth story in a row where Robin has been rendered unconscious by a villain who's mostly pedestrian. Joker got him one of those times, and that was the only one that felt right. The other ones have been like normal guys with just blunt instruments. And is nearly ran over by a truck, but Batman has to save him. Like, I don't have a problem with Robin fighting out there, and there's a whole debate about this, but as long as Robin proves his worth that he can be out there, this works. But doing this consistently, doing a consistent thing where he's being beat up by not even like super villains, but just normal people, and Batman has to stop what he's doing to save him, it does start causing the problem of like, why is he out here? But Robin actually almost makes up for this later. Lamb wakes up every morning confused, having weird dreams, and somewhat tired, and there's even weird suits in his apartment that he never 100% questions. Batman at one point does see a car speeding away with a specific dent in the back, so he keeps mental note of that. Later, Batman and Robin run into the criminals. Not exactly Wolf. I don't think Wolf is there at the pier, and they get into a fight, and for some reason, this small group of mobsters seem to be better at fighting Batman and Robin than every other group of mobsters, even larger groups of mobsters we've seen them fight before. One of them manages to shoot Batman, mostly in the arm, and then he falls into the water. This is when Robin essentially hulks out. He is crying with rage, and he just unleashes on these mobsters that they were having trouble fighting together, but he is taking them. Then Batman rises from the water, somewhat injured, but they manage to get out of it. This is once again before Alfred existed, so Dick ends up having to perform the surgery to remove the bullet from Batman. That's kind of amazing. He's like 10, 9 or 10 in these stories. Well, debatable. He can be anywhere, I would say, between 9 to 13, depending on the story. I definitely feel like he's supposed to be more on the younger side than the teen side. Eventually, Bruce Wayne happens to be at the museum where he sees the car with the dent and meets Lamb reading the book. Later, he's thinking about the book, The Criminal Master, and realizes that every single crime Wolf has committed follows the book, which finally clicks in Batman's head. So he goes to confront Lamb. Luckily, this is when Lamb is working late with the head of the museum and turns into Wolf and tries to kill him. Batman shows up. They sort of fight him, but he sees the bat symbol because Wolf and Batman haven't really been all that close in any of these fights. That's why I had to specify he wasn't at the pier. So he finally sees the bat symbol, and that has a reaction to him because remember, he fell before seeing a bat symbol before. He tumbles down the same stairs he fell down again. And if you think this is going to be like a Fred Flintstone bowling ball hits him in the head and then a bowling ball hits him in the head again and fixes everything, you are wrong. He dies. Yeah, he dies, which is great. Not a great villain. We don't need him again. As he's dying, he sort of pieces together everything, and even Robin says this seems pretty impossible, but they go with this explanation. Also, there was like no way this guy's going to have freedom. He's at least going to have to go to whatever Arkham is right now for a plea of insanity. So it's probably better that he died, and everybody just kind of feels sorry for him at the end. But once again, this is not the best Batman story, not even like the most interesting mobster story. It's just kind of silly, and not in a fun way. But I hope these stories improve because like we've had kind of supervillains, or at least somewhat impressive villains for the last few stories, and we started off with a Joker and Catwoman story and them meeting for the first time, but now we're getting dude who fell down and thinks he's criminal mastermind. Disappointing, especially from the main Batman series. Okay, so that is it from Batman number 2, the second story, Wolf the Criminal Master. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to get notifications when a new video goes up. I do this Monday through Friday, but Mondays and Thursdays I cover a Superman story in either Action Comics or the main Superman series. And please join us again next time. Same Bat Day, same comic book channel. Have a great day.